So, how do we make the most of this moment, of this opportunity to create a more inclusive and an equitable environment? What do you think? Will, I'll just go right back to you.
Okay. I think this notion of intentionality becomes incredibly important. And these things happen in sort of phases, right? So the first phase is the well said. Everyone comes out and makes a statement, they hang a banner, they, throw an event or do something, they kneel in front of all sorts of things to sort of show their sort of solidarity for it. And that's great. The question is, how do we move to well done, right? How do we move from well said to well done? And that takes time, that takes real reflection, and there is some pain in that transition, right? To sort of really sort of move and to really sort of think about how are we either contributing for inequities or not contributing towards equity, right? So it's not just to say I'm not causing harm. That's not good enough. It's like, how am I moving the efforts sort of forward? And I think we'll see in a lot of individuals and our leaders as well, this is a tough conversation, right? Can you separate yourself from the policy, right? When we're talking about a policy that's disadvantaging a group of people, is the individual, the leader, offended that somehow they're being seen as racist or they're being seen as the cause? Or is it, hey, can I separate myself from the policy, understand what the policy is doing, and then put the necessary corrections in to ensure that we have a path that is at least we're acknowledging where these hurdles are being made or put up, and then how do we then sort of address those in a way, given whatever our structure of our business and policy and rules and regulations are, to address it. And so I think it is this intentional, direct purpose and search for solutions that are really, I think, going to be the challenge in how we rebuild this. It's not enough to get back to pre-COVID, right? We recognize that's a point, but that's not where we need to go. The veil has been removed, the curtain has been pulled back, and it's not going back up. And so now that we're all looking at what's been created and what has caused here, the real question is, then how do we all roll up our sleeves in a way that moves our communities, individuals, and people forward?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Desiree, you look like you wanted to add on to that.
Well, I guess what I would say is the one thing I love about what Will said is this idea of how do we get to great, and how do we think about that in our daily work? I know for myself, having gone through the last year, and everything that encompassed, I'll never be the same. And I don't think any of us will ever be the same. We may not realize directionally, what's changed in us, but a lot has changed in us. And it's going to take us a while to settle into what is the new us. The one thing I think is important is that, how can I get to great? What can I do? And how can I move myself, move the relationships that I have the right voice at the table. When I say the right voice, not a voice that is shying away from what the conversation needs to be, which is, I have to admit, maybe before I'm like, do I really want to take this all on today? Guess what? I am fired up and ready to go. So I am taking on things that I thought I would never really take on in the same way, because somehow I feel like time is short.
Mhm.
Made me really feel like time has collapsed. Time is shorter than I ever thought time was, and things can change so quickly. Overnight, this country had to change and adapt. And so I want to do as much as I can, as fast as I can. And I was always pretty speedy on things. But this whole idea of diversity, this whole idea of inclusion, this whole idea of standing up for what I believe in each and every day, and trying to get to great. And I will tell you, there's some groups that, and I don't want to get into specific names because that's not a nice thing to do, but I've made some decisions to put my money where my mouth is. And so if I've not been able to see the kind of movement that I would like to see, or the kind of attention to the things that we're talking about, then it's probably going to be done without me. And I'm not certain that I would have had the whatever, wherewithal, guts, whatever you want to call it, chutzpah, whatever you want to call it, to just say, you know what, I'm going to pass. And I'm not only am I passing, but I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else that fits into, what we're talking about. And I'm not going to do it in a nasty way, but I'm going to make certain that it is known that this is what is important to me. And so that is where I'm going to be putting my money.
And that's such an important stand to make, right? Like there's so many ways that we move, from the intentionality of, okay, I'm making a statement, I'm putting it on the website, to I'm
Mhm.
doing something meaningful that's going to impact others.
Yeah,
To
well,
move,
we're all in charge of us, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
one thing we can be in charge of.